Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Peter Alexander in Washington. Just 6 days before the Iowa Republican caucuses, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, they are all hitting the trail in the Hawkeye state, trying to turn every last Iowan into a caucus goer. But the race's frontrunner, Donald Trump, took a very different strategy today, appearing voluntarily in a Washington, D.C. federal courtroom. Mr. Trump's lawyers are trying to get a federal appeals court to dismiss special counsel Jack Smith's criminal charges tied to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. In court today, the former president's attorney argued that the Constitution gave him sweeping legal protections and presidential immunity. The judges, however, seemed highly skeptical of that argument.
Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
so your answer is
my answer is qualified yes. There's a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate.
Lawyers for the Justice Department echoed the judge's comments with their own pushback.
What kind of world are we living in if, as I understood my friend on the other side to say here, a president orders his SEAL team to assassinate a political rival and resigns, for example, before an impeachment? Not a criminal act. President sells a pardon, resigns, or is not impeached? Not a crime. I think that is extraordinarily frightening future.
So we're going to get into the legal merits of the hearing and what it means for Mr. Trump's legal standing shortly. But first, the big picture politics. Just 6 days, as we noted, before the Iowa caucuses, with other candidates trying to reach as many Iowans as possible. Mr. Trump's choice to skip the trail and spend the day in court shows us a very different kind of calculation. The campaign appears to be betting that the visual of Trump in a courtroom is more powerful as its closing message than the alternative, as they try to convince Republicans that he is a victim. And it turns out this may be working. Here's what we have been hearing from Iowans over just the last several days.
He said their main goal is not to come after me. They're trying to stop me because they want to come after you. I feel like that's the main thing that they're trying to do.
I say when Jesus died, he died for us. So he did it for us. So when Trump is facing all these things, he's doing it for us in our place. When they are indicting him, we are being indicted. When they talk negative about him, they're talking negative about us. You understand?
And then there is the fact that Mr. Trump's lawyers in court are arguing for a maximalist view of executive power as the former president runs for another term and has indicated that he would use such authority. He pledged to act like a, quote, dictator on day one, and yesterday threatened his likely general election opponent with a payback indictment. After the hearing, Mr. Trump seemed to again make the implicit threat that if he does not get immunity from criminal prosecution, then Joe Biden will not get it either.
It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy. If you didn't have immunity, as an example, Joe Biden with the prosecutor, we're not going to give you $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor that's after the company or his son or whoever it is they're after. But he wanted that prosecutor gone, and he's on tape saying it. Or you could say the horrible job he's done at the border, where our country is being destroyed.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.